What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Rhett and Evan from the Cannon Fire Podcast, back today with another video about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As we alluded to in our previous upload, a lot of these head coaching rumors for 2022 are going to start to heat up, and whether we like it or not, a lot of the names attached to these rumors are on the Buccaneers coaching staff, between the offensive coordinator and Byron Leftwich and the defensive coordinator and Todd Bowles. One of those guys, if not both, could very well be a head coach in the NFL in 2022. Today, we're going to be looking at some potential defensive coordinators who can replace Todd Bowles if he were to take a job. I think one of the latest reports I had actually seen is that the Las Vegas Raiders are kind of interested in Todd Bowles and may be looking to interview him within the final 2 weeks of the season. But wanted to put a video like this out just to get you guys familiar with some of the names you may be hearing as these rumors continue to grow. And yes, we'll cross the bridge when we come to it about the offseason talk, but with rumors starting to heat up, I do think it's important to try and get out in front of stuff like this. So Evan has got a list of 3 guys who could be filling in for Todd Bowles if he takes a spot on another team in 2022. So potential defensive coordinators for the Bucs. Evan, who have you got?
So I did this with the Leftwich one, and I'm going to do it with this one. I'm going to preface this by saying, with these names, Todd Bowles could certainly, if he takes a head coaching job, he could certainly go and make one of these guys his defensive coordinator. Like, it's possible, right? Nothing's stopping him from doing that. I'm just saying, if Todd Bowles wants to start fresh with a new staff, these are some options that the Bucs have. First, we're going to start off internally. Casey Rogers, the current defensive line coach for the Buccaneers. He's 52 years old. He was the Jets defensive coordinator when Bowles was the head coach. And that's why I bring up that Bowles might just end up bringing him with him, if he gets a head coaching job, because he's already been together. But Rodgers has been a defensive line coach at multiple stops. I mean, he's had multiple runs with multiple teams as a defensive line coach. Only had that one brief stint as defensive coordinator of the Jets and really didn't have much success. But the Jets at the time didn't have a ton of talent. So it's hard to really gauge the type of job he did there. But he's a guy with experience. He's a guy that knows, obviously, the defense well, and he's been on this staff before. Todd Bowles trusts him, and I'm sure Bruce Arians really trusts Todd Bowles. So if Todd Bowles gives Rodgers a ringing endorsement, Arians might say, "Oh, this could be a guy to be my defensive coordinator," and I think it could make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I said it on the last video when we talked about Harold Goodwin potentially being an offensive coordinator. Hiring from within is a process that I think is really going to help out this coaching staff if you are going to be losing guys at the coordinator positions, because Bruce Arians and the staff he has built in Tampa Bay, it's literally the largest in the league still. I think they have the most coaches on payroll, more than anyone else. Like, it's the biggest coaching staff I think the Bucs have probably ever had as well. So luckily, when you are looking at hiring from within, not only do you have plenty of years of experience throughout this staff, plenty of more than capable people, but people who already have a rapport with the team, people who know the players, guys. It's important to have coaches that the players like, and that's another name that, could have a lot of connection with some of these defensive guys, and something that makes a lot of sense and makes that entire process a lot easier for Tampa Bay, especially if it's a guy that they're already more than familiar with, because if you have plans to hire a guy like that, it's almost like the interview process is a formality, right? If he's more than capable, he could be an option for Tampa Bay.
And it's a seamless transition for anybody stepping into that role for the players on the defense, because the defense won't change a whole lot. So one more in-house candidate we have is an up-and-coming one, Larry Foote, the outside linebackers coach. He's 41 years old. He played in the NFL from 2002 to 2014, most notably, I believe, with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's probably what people remember him for best. But he coached in Arizona with Arians and in Tampa now for the last 3 seasons, so he has some coaching experience. I think he's a coach on the rise. I think he's a smart defensive mind, and I think eventually he may be a defensive coordinator someday. So just like in our last video talking about Kevin Garver, if the Bucs wanted sort of an out-of-the-box guy, but a guy to keep that continuity there and look in-house, make that seamless transition for the defense, I think Larry Foote could definitely be that guy. And I think the players respect him. I think as a former player, he understands what his players are feeling, what they're looking for, what they're trying to do. And I think he really understands the pulse of the defense really well. The last one is probably the biggest name. He's not currently coaching. He is not on a coaching staff. He's not on any coaching staff, but he has a long history with Bruce Arians, and that is Chuck Pagano. Chuck Pagano has a very close relationship with Bruce Arians. I believe they call each other cousin, I think. In the Bruce Arians football life, they talk extensively about Chuck Pagano, and when Pagano was diagnosed with cancer, Bruce Arians filling in for that time, winning Coach of the Year, and what that meant to Pagano. Those two just have such a close relationship, and it wouldn't shock me if Todd Bowles leaves. Who's the next guy on the list? Well, Chuck Pagano could very well be the guy. He's been a defensive coordinator multiple times with multiple teams. Most recently, it was with Chicago. He was not I don't know if he was fired or just not re-signed last year after Chicago was eliminated from the playoffs. So he's not currently coaching, like I said. He's been a head coach before, so he knows the accountability factor of it. I think if you're looking for an experienced defensive coordinator to maybe, it would be a different defense you'd be walking into, right? It would be a different, Chuck Pagano and Todd Bowles, they run similar defenses, but it's not exactly the same. And if you wanted to switch it up a little bit, I think Pagano is a guy that can make a lot of sense. Like I said, his relationship with Arians makes a ton of sense, and it would really be a pretty good position for Pagano to land in.
Yeah, definitely a realistic option and one that does make a lot of sense. I do think that if Pagano were to hypothetically end up in Tampa Bay, I hope he could still commit to his weekly appearances on the Pat McAfee show, because I've really enjoyed hearing him become a vocal part of that and getting his insight every now and again. But yeah, pretty interesting option, but I think a pretty good list of options put together, and hopefully something to think about as the offseason approaches. We still have plenty of football left to be played. But like I said in the last video, this is a conversation we're going to have sooner or later. And with the NFL updating their rules about the interview process and head coaches, you're going to hear a lot more about these head coaching rumors over the last few weeks of the season. And a lot of them are going to involve current Tampa Bay Buccaneers coordinators. But with that being said, that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you guys for checking it out. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Plenty of great Buccaneers content throughout the week, including the podcast and more. Leave a thumbs up and a comment down below. Maybe some guys you think could be potential options for Tampa Bay at both the offensive and defensive coordinator position. We will talk to you guys in the next one. Until then, and as always, go Bucs.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the 48-yard line. Second down, 13. Brady lobs one downfield. Caught ball by Gronkowski.